it's Michaela with Your Everyday Woman, and I'm finally getting around to filming my birth story. I did try and film it once and it didn't work out. Something was wrong with the audio, so now we are filming it a little over a month later, but I just wanted to go ahead and share what happened. So contractions started at officially about 2 o'clock on June 23rd. I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions a week before. If you were keeping up with my pregnancy updates, you'll know that the last week or two there I was feeling the Braxton Hicks contractions. Anyway, fast forward June 24th, I had gotten off a video appointment with my husband, and immediately I got up and had 3 contractions within about 20 minutes. And I recognize them as being real as opposed to Braxton Hicks contractions because they were actually a little bit more painful versus the painless ones that were kind of inconsistent. These ones were a lot more intense. They weren't quite as painful just yet, but they were getting there. So I got up, ran to get the mail, went into town for a minute. Yeah, I had about 3 contractions. I came home and the contractions had stopped. And this went on for pretty much the rest of the night. So I came home, I was telling my mom about it. I'm like, Mom, just be prepared. We may end up going to the hospital tonight. But they weren't consistent enough to where it's like, okay, they're 5 minutes here, apart here, 5 minutes there. I'd get 3 in a matter of 20 minutes, and then an hour and a half later, I'd get like another 1 or 2. And yeah, we did that all night long. And got little Miss joining us today here. So after that, Abby and I had come to bed, and we had 11:30 rolls around. I went to bed, got us down for the night. About 11:30 rolls around, and I got up, went to the bathroom, and I realized that I was I was bleeding. So at that point, I decided to call my OB. I did have an OB appointment, my 40-week checkup the next day at 12 o'clock. But I just decided to call and say, hey, this is happening. I don't know if, I don't know what's going on. So my OB at that point had just said, just wait till your appointment the next day. You'll be fine. My water had not broken yet. I believe I had lost my mucus plug. That's what that was. It was your bloody show, I think it's called. I'm not entirely sure. I was induced with Abby, so all of that was new to me. So I had texted my mom just to let her know what was going on. But by that point, we were fine. I went to bed, and I had been experiencing contractions all night long, but nothing too painful. So at that point, I just decided, you know what? This is probably my last night with just my 2-year-old. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to rest up. I'm going to cuddle her close. And that's just kind of what we did. And yeah, the contractions were a little bit more painful as the night went on, but not to the point that it was keeping me up. I was able to turn over every time I had a contraction and just kind of sleep through it. So I got up the next day, had another video meeting, had a few more contractions, nothing consistent. But by that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably dilating. I knew that was going to happen. So I went to my appointment at 12 o'clock, and my OB had said, okay, you're out of 3. Let's schedule an induction date. And at that point, I was really trying hard. I don't want to be induced. I don't want to have to get tested for the coronavirus. I don't want to deal with any of that. And I was really trying to say, no, I don't want to be induced. But he had said, well, if we go past the 41-week mark, we have to induce you. It's a matter of safety at that point. So he actually ended up scheduling me for the weekend before, Friday before. But he had checked me. I was at like a 3.5 to a 4. He had stripped my membranes, and I went out and went shopping for the day. My mom was with me. I didn't want to drive myself down, especially with being almost an hour and a half away from the hospital. So my mom and I, decided that, we were going to go to lunch. We were going to do some shopping, see if we can really get labor going before we head up the hill. So that took place around 12 o'clock on June 24th. Then at this point it was probably about 1 o'clock. I still had the contractions, nothing really consistent enough to be able to tell. Really wasn't timing them, really didn't feel the need to time them. But the pain level did start to kick up a little bit. So we did some shopping, and then about an hour later we were in the 99-cent store. Well, we were in Marshall's first. That's when I started feeling the really painful contractions. It was around 2 o'clock by that point, 1:45, 2 o'clock. And I had gotten to the point where the contractions were painful enough to where I couldn't walk through them. I couldn't really talk through them. Just kind of had to sit there and breathe through them the best I can. So we started at, when we were getting in line at Marshall's, and then we went to the 99-cent store, and we were going up and down the aisles trying to find stuff, because we had recently moved, so I was trying to get stuff in order, whatever last minute stuff I could, before baby got here, which by that point was completely pointless. At that point, as we were walking up and down the aisles, I couldn't get through a full aisle without timing, or without having a painful contractions. I completely had to stop. Like, it didn't matter who was in my way at that point. I just needed to stop and get through my contraction, and they were at that point painful. But I didn't quite believe I was really in labor yet. I didn't really have contractions. The doctor my OB seemed very adamant that I was gonna have to be induced 2 days later. So that would have been June 26th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, the painful contractions had taken place, and at that point I still was not timing them. I was not convinced. But the contractions were more painful, and my mom could see when I was see the pain level go up. So I think by that point she probably thought, it was I don't know what she was thinking, honestly, but she knew that the contractions were not easing up. So we had decided that we were going to go grocery shopping and then go home and just see where the next day or two takes us. And because neither of us were really convinced that I was in labor. We just knew that the contractions were happening. And then so we had gone to the grocery store. The hospital had called me saying that, getting me set up for a scheduled induction, getting me ready for a time. And at that point I decided I'm just gonna tell the nurse on the phone what was happening. I told her how far, we live an hour and a half away from the hospital. I don't know if this is real labor or not. The contractions really are not consistent. I haven't been timing them. Just kind of gave them the whole story. And then, so she told me, she's like, well, because you live so far away, I hate for you to go home and then have the baby in the car and try and have to come back and deal with contractions during that. And by this point, it was about 4 o'clock. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I, told her, I'm like, do you want me to come in now? Do you want me to wait a little bit? Here's kind of our plans. And she said to wait a little bit, wait an hour, walk around, really get labor going. So we had decided to leave the grocery store. My mom had, she had her, I was still in the beginning of the grocery store because the contractions were so painful I really couldn't move. My mom had done some grocery shopping. And immediately she went up to the cashier and told him that I was in labor and that I needed to get to the hospital. Sorry, we had to leave all of our cold stuff there. And the cashier looked at us like, yeah, just get her to the hospital. We'll take care of this stuff. We do not want you having a baby in the middle of this store. So yeah, that probably would have scarred him for life. So we had gone to Hobby Lobby, and by that point I finally started timing my contractions, and they were 2 to 3 minutes apart. Hobby Lobby was right next door to the grocery store. So we gone there, and again, at that point, I still wasn't convinced. I was emotional at that point, we're going to the hospital to have this baby. It didn't feel real to me, and I just kind of got over emotional, so I was trying to hold off going to the hospital. Went around Hobby Lobby, and by that point, I had started getting the stares of, people wondering if I'm okay or not, and they saw my pregnant belly. I had one mother, and with her daughter, she was probably about 10 years old, looked at, I was stopping her in the middle of the aisle, and she was telling me, so are you in labor right now? You're having contractions? And then I told her, yeah. And so she immediately was just do what you gotta do. And my mom wasn't far. She had gone to the restroom. At that point, I had decided that I just wanted to shop. My mom was trying to convince me to stay with her, and then that went on. We were probably only in there about 20 minutes at that point. And I told her, and I'm like, Mom, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital yet. Let's just shop. And then finally, the contractions got to a point to where they were 1 to 2 minutes apart. I was stopping every few feet to have a contraction. And my mom's like, you need to get to the hospital. And, it was about 5 o'clock, a little bit before 5 o'clock at this point. She's like, we need to get you to the hospital. I don't want you having this baby in Hobby Lobby. And we got to get out. The hospital was about 20 minutes away at that point because we had gone to the next town over. So she basically had to drag me out of Hobby Lobby to get to the hospital. And then we were stuck in 5 o'clock traffic, and the contractions were, about 1 to 2 minutes apart at that point. Finally, we got to the hospital. I had to go check in, and I had not been tested for coronavirus at that point, and actually I didn't get tested at all for coronavirus. So we had gone into the hospital. I was in triage for about 20 minutes. They said I was out of 6. My contractions were 1 to 2 minutes apart, and I was sitting there begging for an epidural. I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a break here somewhere. I was kind of hoping to just sit in the hospital bed for a while and just have my contractions, get my epidural, and once the epidural was in, I'd just be able to enjoy the rest of this labor. Well, 20 minutes later, they had admitted me to the hospital. I don't think they ordered the epidural, and quite honestly, there wasn't time to order the epidural. I had gone in, they checked me again, I was at an 8. And then the next thing I knew, I was at a 10. Again, contractions were like a minute apart, probably even less at that point. So I finally, was admitted into the hospital. I went from an 8 to a 10 in a matter of like 10 minutes. I don't even know. Things at that point happened so fast, I honestly don't remember everything that had happened. All I know is that I had at one point thrown up, was sick, just overwhelmed, which made me nauseous. And then I felt the urge to push, but I didn't know it was the urge to push. I didn't understand the feeling. I had a contraction so painful that I felt like pushing. Didn't know it, and I jumped out of bed. I literally jumped out of the bed and sat on her head because I did not know what the heck was happening. My mom had to take me and hold me back. My mom was with me in the hospital, so in case that wasn't clear already, she was with me the entire time. So she had to hold me back. We were waiting on the doctor, and then the nurse was like, that feeling you have right there, that's your urge to push. You should probably push. But wait a minute. We have to wait for the doctor. And they were like trying to get the OB in, and I'm like, I have to push. Can I please push now? Like, let me just start pushing this baby out. They're like, no, wait for the doctor. So they were scrambling for the doctor to get in. Finally, he had gotten in there, and I pushed for a total of about 10 minutes, and then she was out. And it was just seeing her face for the first time, like, still not believing it. My husband was on the phone with me. We were on via video chat. So he had gotten on the phone, and my mom had just called him. Well, he was just on the phone at that point. Video chat happened a little bit later. But he was, just sitting there trying to encourage me the best he could. And then, so once I got her out, I saw her beautiful face for the first time, and it was so precious, so beautiful, just so great. I did have, I believe it was a 1st degree tear, so I did have to get stitches. And I mean, from there it was just all, just enjoying having a baby. And quite honestly, my legs felt like complete jello afterwards. With Abby, I was induced, and then I had the epidural, so I didn't even feel what was going on. But yeah, have a baby if you want to feel what it's like to have everything and then some taken out of you. But honestly, it was a truly amazing experience. I am so proud of myself for doing that all natural without any kind of epidural or anything like that. I mean, I'm pretty proud of myself because the plan was to potentially get the epidural, but it wasn't like I was going to wait till I get to the point where I couldn't stand it. By the time I got to that point, I couldn't even have the epidural. So it happened. It was such a quick birth, but it was so neat and so beautiful. And the fact that I was able to just have just a beautiful baby girl that God had put inside me and that God had created 9 months before. And I mean, it was such a beautiful thing to have been able to just have and experience that. And I mean, I couldn't believe, this new life that was in my arms, and just so precious. And you realize that it doesn't really matter like how much bad is going on in your life, because if you've been keeping up with some of the stuff, we've had a pretty hard year, but you you look down at this beautiful life and you're like, it doesn't really matter at this point because I've got a beautiful baby girl that I get to care for, and I've got older girls that I get to care for and be a mom to, and you know, everything will work itself out, and everything will work itself out in God's timing. And this, you know, being pregnant and having a baby, I don't believe it was an accident that it happened in the time that it did. I truly believe that it was God's way. God has a bigger purpose for the pregnancy in the time that he did. Yes, we were trying to get pregnant. Yes, we wanted another baby. Yes, it felt like the right time to have a baby, especially when we had decided to start trying again. And now just, you know, you can't help but wonder, like, because we had prayed about it and we're like, God, you know, we want this baby, but we don't want it outside of your time. And he gave us a baby, and he gave us it in this time. And I mean, I love to understand why, but at the same time, it doesn't matter, because life, despite the hardships, life is good, and life is beautiful. And it's just, you kind of like got to learn to count your blessings and not your curses. And you know, just learning to look at, there have been good things that have come about all of this, and I'm so blessed to have beautiful baby girls that I get to be their mom to, and I get to love. And I can't believe that God just gave this new life to me this year. And you know, she's precious, she's healthy, her doctors are telling me how healthy she is and how beautiful it is. And I've been so blessed to be able to have a family and have 2 beautiful baby girls and a husband, and to just have all of these things. And God has just done so much good in our lives. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
Mommy.
And I do videos focusing on beauty and motherhood and lifestyle and fashion. So I will see you in the next video. God bless, and bye, guys.
Hey, Mommy.